Commissioners, are we ready to start? You want to? Okay. I have not heard. I have not been notified, Mayor. I know Commissioner Hoover is on Zoom, or she did tell me that today. So if you want to wait a few minutes and see if there's other commissioners.
Commissioner Hoover is on Zoom.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We are tonight talking about the electric bicycle, motorized scooter, and micro-mobility. This is our workshop. We do have some people here to start off the workshop, and I just want to welcome some of our community to be here. What a crowd, because we weren't sure. So thank you for being here to be involved in our first e-bike scooter workshop. With that, I just want to introduce the Chief of Police, Sean Brandenburg, and he has his officers here to make some presentations along with Ryan Husky, right? Ryan, am I right on that one? He's here. Chief, do you want to go ahead and introduce some of your staff who will be speaking today?
All right, good evening, everybody. I have Lieutenant Matt Haley in the back. He is the division commander over my traffic unit. I have Officer Alex Goffilet up here in the front, and he is the guy with the boots on the ground that runs the motor unit day to day for us. And then around here somewhere is Captain Smith, but I think we had something going on. He had to step outside to handle. So myself and these two officers will answer any questions you have as we go along tonight.
Thank you, Chief. And as we get started, we do have some handouts tonight. We have some slides that the Chief is going to speak about. If we don't have enough, if you put your email on the sign-off sheet, and if you'd like that, we'll make sure you get a copy. We also have a flyer, Florida's Electric Bicycle Law, and that's a great handout. We're going to put it on the website today as well. And on the back of that is a map of where the e-bikes can ride on the sidewalk. So make sure you get that, and if you don't, if we run out, I'll make sure we get some copies before this is over.
Patty,
Yes, sir.
can we get some up there? Commissioner Weekly and myself don't have any.
You certainly may.
Thank you.
Okay, this time I'll turn it over to Chief Brandenburg to go over the statute.
All right, am I on, Jason? There we go. All right, so I'm going to go over some definitions. Some of them we're going to go a little quick. Any of them that you don't understand, or if I breeze over, please stop me. You can stop me at any time, and we'll talk more about it. So, bicycle. All right, so a bicycle is any human-powered vehicle that has two tandem wheels, including any device generally recognized as a bicycle though equipped with two front or two rear wheels. Does not include scooters, electric bikes, or multi-person human-powered entertainment vehicle or similar device. So a bicycle, right? Whether you got two front wheels, two back wheels, a trike, if you're pedaling it, it's a bicycle. Again, crosswalk, I don't think I need to tell everybody what a crosswalk is. Daytime, just for knowledge, it's at 1/2 hour before sunrise and 1/2 hour after sunset, and nighttime is any other time. Now, electric bicycle is a bicycle or tricycle equipped with fully operable pedals, a seat or saddle for the use of the rider, and an electric motor of less than 750 watts, which meets the requirements of one of the following three classifications. So class 1 electric bike is one that you only get power from the motor when you're pedaling, basically. The class 2 electric bike, that's an electric bike that the motor that can be used exclusively to propel the electric bike, and it's not supposed to go more than 20 miles an hour. And then you have your class 3 bicycle, and that's an electric bike equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling and ceases to provide assistance when the electric bike reaches a speed of 28 miles an hour. So it'll help you all the way up to 28 miles an hour, and then you got to pedal to go faster. Micro mobility device. This one, this is the city's definition under the code. And that's any motorized transportation device made available for private use by reservation through online application, website, software, and they're not supposed to go more than 20. So these are the ones you rent, right? You can go up, you can click on an app, you can rent it and ride it around town, and it's usually propelled by a motor. And it includes motorized scooters, electric bikes, and bicycles as defined by this chapter. Mopeds. I think we all know what a moped is. Well, it's any vehicle with pedals, even though a lot of our scooters don't have pedals. Permit propulsion by power, having a seat or saddle, not more than 3 wheels, and a motor rated not in excess of 2 brake horsepower, and not capable of propelling the vehicle at a speed greater than 30 miles per hour on level ground. And you can't have a clutch or shift gears. And if it's got a motor, if it's got a gas motor, it has to be less than 50 cc's. So that's our normal, what we see, the scooters running around town. Less than 50 cc's, and they're not supposed to go more than 30. Motor vehicle, I think we all know what a car is. Car, truck, semi, box truck. Motorcycle, big scooter, right? A motorcycle has gears, you change gears, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, and those are governed by different laws. A motorized scooter, a vehicle or micromobility device that is powered by a motor with or without a seat or saddle for the use of the rider, which is designated to travel on not more than 3 wheels and which is capable of propelling the vehicle at a speed greater than 20 miles an hour on level ground. A motorized scooter capable of speeds greater than 20 miles per hour on level ground shall be regulated as a motorcycle or moped depending on its motor's capability. The term does not include an electric bike or moped as defined by this chapter. Multi-use or shared path. These are the paved areas for pedestrians, bikes, multiple use, or recreational device as defined by our code. Does not include on-road bike lanes or sidewalks. So it's the 5 big sidewalks. I think FDOT calls them promenades. Whatever you want to call them, North Roosevelt, South Roosevelt, Palm Avenue, Atlantic Boulevard, and then the bridge over into Stock Island and around College Road. Those are the only places that they are allowed to ride the electric bikes or ride everything on the multi-use shared path. Now, I do want to give Ryan credit. We were trying to figure out, because right now there's only 1 speed limit sign, and everybody in town told me it was there, and I finally found it. The one bus stop does say electric bikes, 15 miles an hour, but it's a rotating sign, right? So you got to go by Home Depot at just the right time to see the sign, and it says electric bike, speed limit 15 miles an hour. Ryan and I were talking about the fact that, we want to make people aware that they're only supposed to be going 15 miles an hour on those roads. But I don't want to confuse cars with another speed, right? You got a 30 mile an hour speed limit sign with a 15 mile an hour speed limit sign. And so I'm going to have tourists going 15 miles an hour down the boulevard. I don't want that. So Ryan actually came up with the idea, paint it on the ground, right? The only people that'll see it are the people riding their bicycles. The cars won't see it. So Ryan's a genius. He came up with the idea. It's not my idea. It's his idea. I got to give him credit. And I think that will help tremendously. He says we have to get somebody's permission. I said, just do it. So whatever. All right. Pedestrian, sidewalk, street. Does anybody, do I need to go? I don't think I need to go over those, right? If you're walking, you're a pedestrian. Sidewalk, street, okay. Well, we're going to get to that. So a vehicle of every device upon or by which a person or property is or may be. Sorry, Siri. Thank you for that, Siri. Okay, so vehicle means any vehicle or device upon which person or property is or may be transported or drawn upon a highway except devices used exclusively upon stationary rails or tracks. Let's see, recreational vehicle shall mean electric bike, motorized scooter, or other micro-mobility devices. This term shall not mean bicycles, mopeds, or any self-propelled or motorized vehicle capable of exceeding 28 miles per hour. Now here's where we get to the part you were just talking about. All public sidewalks and or pedestrian pathways shall be only available for use by pedestrians or non-motorized or non-electric bicycles. So if it's a pedal power bicycle, they can ride on the sidewalk. If they're an electric bike, they can only ride on those 5 sidewalks I talked about earlier. Bicycles, unless said sidewalk has been designated multi-use, which are the ones I said earlier, those 5. Notwithstanding the above provision, an individual utilizing a recreational device pursuant to ADA may operate those devices on any city, street, multi-use shared path. So if you got to hover around or whatever they call those things, you know, the elderly use to get around, you're allowed to use those on the sidewalk. The riding and operating of recreational devices is permissible upon all multi-use and or shared use paths by a bicycle may legally travel located on or within the city limits with restrictions as follows. Recreational devices shall be restricted to a maximum speed of 15 miles an hour, what we just talked about, when operating on a public multi-use or shared path. A person operating a recreational device upon and along sidewalk or sidewalk area or across the roadway upon and along a crosswalk has all the rights and duties applicable to a bicyclist under the same circumstances and shall yield the right-of-way to any pedestrian and shall give an audible signal before overtaking or passing such pedestrian. That's where they fail to do a lot. Violation of the electric bicycle, motorized scooters, and micromobility devices shall be penalized as provided in 1-15 and a fine under civil citations. So what's 1-15? I'm glad you asked. So except for provided in this section, Code of Ordinances 115 is referred to as providing a penalty of violation. The violation shall be punishable of a fine of not more than $500 or a term of imprisonment not to exceed 60 days or both, fine and imprisonment. Now, how we do that, how the police do that, is we issue a notice to appear in county court. Or if you don't meet the criteria for a notice to appear, we have to take you to jail. So that's a problem. You have to have a connection to Key West, right? If you're a local, we can give you an NTA. If you're not a local, we have no choice. There's a lot. Yes, sir. Civil citation for a bicycle, yes.
Hey, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you repeat the question so that everybody on Zoom can
I'm
pick
sorry.
it up also before you answer
Yeah,
it?
I've got a microphone. If you put your hand up, because you'll need to speak into the microphone so the commissioner on Zoom and then the other people can hear. So
Sorry,
here you
Dorian,
go.
I jumped the
Just
gun.
Speak loud and close.
Well, my question was whether these have ever been written, and I see the officer over here is raising his hands, but most of us who drive around town, you can load my car up with books and I couldn't write them all. I mean, these laws are being broken every single day on every single corner, at every single stop sign, and every single one-way street. So all we have to do is do this, and we can all get up and leave this meeting. You'll fix your problem. Seriously, I mean, what's the point of having a law if we're not going to do anything about it?
I do agree. We prioritize and we enforce all laws, and we do it as best we can with the officers that we have available. I have 6 motorcycle officers that go out, and I know some of you that drive in during the mornings have seen them out there, and some mornings the boulevard's lit up blue. They're pulling over people on the sidewalk. They're pulling over speeders. We're trying to take care of the triangle with the construction problem that's going on out on South Roosevelt. We have to monitor that. I know that when we're not at the triangle, people don't obey the rules and they end up jamming up the triangle. But I have 6 people that I can use to do that. And then I have my regular road patrol force that's out there, and in between calls for service, they answer, they do self-initiated traffic as well as other patrol responsibilities. So, I mean, you're right. We sit at some corners and we'll get 40, 50 traffic stops in a day.
You actually write tickets, or do we just give them a wink and a nod and say you're tourists and get on your way?
No, it depends on the violation and whether they've been warned before. And some of our laws require a warning before we can give a ticket. It depends on what law they've broken, what rule they've broken. There's a lot of it's not, I know it's frustrating. It's difficult to understand if you don't live this life every day trying to enforce it. But we are out there. We do enforce it with the manpower we have.
So it seems to me the problem is the manpower, and not the law, and not the breakers of the law. They're going to break the law as long as they can get away with it.
Well,
I mean,
You can-
seriously, I don't mean to be controversial here, but we're in here trying to solve a problem, and you just told us what the problem is, and we ain't going to solve that here tonight.
right. And we've been trying since the invention of the automobile to control speeding and running red lights. So
You do a
I mean-
better job with cars, I can tell you.
Okay. Well.
One more quick question. Before here, you mentioned about the top speed they're allowed to go. How do you all determine that? I mean, how do you?
So that's a good question. And
Because
that's
I
something we're
pass
going to
them
do.
all the time, and they pass me going a hell of a lot faster than what you're saying.
Okay. So we have laser speed measurement devices that can pinpoint the individual, right? I have the speed trailers that I can do a traffic study with, but those pick up cars, and when there's cars and bicycles next to each other, they're going to pick up the cars, not the bicycles.
Yeah, they make
So
my
that
radar
doesn't do me any
detector
good.
go crazy.
Huh? So any rate, so we can use the lasers and pinpoint the exact bicycle or mobility device and get their speed. Now, I have, like I say, I only have 6 officers, but we're going to teach Ryan and Dorian and some code enforcement officers how to use those lasers, and then we can do our own traffic studies to determine when I need the officers out there. That's the same thing I do with the speed trailers. You tell me someone's speeding in your neighborhood, I set up the speed trailers, and the speed trailers tell me what time of day people are speeding in your neighborhood. I send a cop out there when it's most productive, and then I get more bang for my buck, right? So I don't have a cop sitting out there 8 hours a day when they're only speeding 1 hour a day, right? So that's why we use the speed trailers. Now we're going to use humans to compile that data so that we can better enforce the laws. And I think once we have markings in place other than one sign saying 15 miles an hour, because I always thought it was 20. I don't know why. Probably because I read one of these other statutes and I thought it was 20, but it's 15. Once we educate everybody on the fact that it's 15, I think we will we'll have better results.
Nobody's going 15.
We have another question, Chief. 1 second.
I accidentally hit my button a few times.
Hello, my name is Maureen Einstein.
Yep.
All the designated path that you have in the back here,
Yes, ma'am.
is that for all electric bikes, no matter how fast they can go?
Yep.
They are totally taking over every single all this whole path. I walk and I take the bus every day, and it's dangerous to get off a bus because they're coming at you. They weave through you. They should, if they have a motor, they should be on the road.
Well,
I don't understand why you picked this. Where there's a lot of pedestrians that walk this way all the time. It's really dangerous, and quite frankly, I don't feel safe.
Can the class threes can be on there too as well, right? Yeah. So yeah, any e-bike or any of these devices can be on those 5 sidewalks. Everywhere else, it's in the street.
Chief, this is state law.
Yes.
Chief, I have a question for you. Have you ticketed any bicyclists on the sidewalks? Like Eaton
We
Street?
have, yes.
Like Eaton Street? or maybe-
E-bikes for
Use
sure.
use the mic.
I am. Is it on? I'm not sure.
Not you.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
Okay,
we've issued
please.
citations, we've issued tickets, we've issued civil citations. Part of the problem we have when we issue a normal citation like you would if you're driving your vehicle is if you get stopped, you're not required to have a driver's license to operate a bicycle. So the penalty phases come in when if you're speeding, you get issued a ticket, then you either pay the ticket or you're going to lose your driver's license. With a bicycle, since you're not required to have a driver's license, there's nothing that's going to have, as far as the penalties,
Yeah.
You know, you don't pay your ticket, you lose your license. You keep on getting a ticket for speeding, you're going to lose your license. With a bicycle, you're not going to. It's a lesser fine. It's a $50 fine, and it really won't affect someone until they renew their driver's license or they go to register a type of vehicle. So that's why this whole ordinance, we came up with this ordinance so that we could start issuing, you know, citations that had some teeth to them.
Well, I hope you pay attention to Eaton Street. I live in that neighborhood, and the e-bikes coming down on the sidewalk of Eaton Street has become increasingly dangerous for pedestrians. I've lived in this city for 21 and a half years, and my primary means of I have a license, driver's license, don't use it. I don't use a bicycle. I walk or take public transit, and really walking is my number one means of transportation, and the sidewalks have become increasingly dangerous. And if I get hit by an e-bike, even at my age, it's not going to work out well for me. Not at my age, especially. And I just wish something could be done.
Yes, thank you. My question is, just to be super clear, these four designated areas, these are the only place, this is a question, are these the only places that e-bikes are permitted to be on a sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay, and on these 4 areas, the speed limit for these e-bikes is 15 miles an hour.
Correct.
But when the e-bikes are in the road, like on North Roosevelt or Flagler, they're allowed to go how fast?
A class 3 can go 28 miles an hour.
Okay, and that's permissible.
Yes.
And are bicycles, not e-bikes, just old-fashioned bicycles, are they allowed on sidewalks?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's what he's talking about.
Well, he says they're e-bikes. We'd have to sit out there and check.
Well, that's illegal. But bicycles are okay.
Are permissible, yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Chief,
Go ahead.
back here, are either you or Ron, you all going to touch on that the state is the one who we got to do what the state tells us to do, that they're in control of this with the licenses and the drivers?
Right. There are a lot of rules that the state, there are a lot of things that the state controls. And honestly, e-bikes, our confusion for us is every 6 months the state changes the rules, it seems like, because twice a year they change the state laws. And, you know, as soon as we get used to the one law, and the laws cannot advance as fast as the technology advances with these devices, bicycles, e-bikes, whatever it is. So these are all challenges we face. And so, yes, the Florida state statute does overrule on some of these things, and a lot of these things that are city ordinances, they're just mirrors of the Florida state statute. We just copied and pasted and made it a city ordinance so that we can issue the civil citations, like Officer Golfalay said, which we have more authority over. Does that make sense?
I love this map, but is this on? But I can tell you, probably those of us who've been in the room have seen it, either on the city website or Facebook or in the newspaper. The majority of the people riding on what are these multi-use probably have never seen it. So they continue on the sidewalks. So however you're painting the speed limits, I would suggest this somehow goes somewhere, that this is where they belong, because they are everywhere.
Yep.
In addition to that, bicycles, I've known for years, are allowed on the sidewalk, but they do not follow the flow of the traffic, which makes it very dangerous pulling out on North Roosevelt, or particularly North Roosevelt, but any street. And as a pedestrian who used to walk all over the place, I don't any longer on the Boulevard multi-use because it's so dangerous. And now I'm even afraid to walk in the neighborhood where there are sidewalks. They do not yield to pedestrians. And they've got 3 places they can be in some of the places. They've got the bike paths on where they can be on the road, the main road. They have bike paths, and they have the sidewalk. Pedestrians have 1 place. So in addition to somehow getting this out to the real people who are using it, not us, we've seen it, which is why we're here, we need to do something to get it to the people who are on these bikes. And other than posting this somehow or painting it on the sidewalk also, I'm not sure how you can do that. Anyway, it's a big problem all the way around, just from the bikes. It started with the bikes. Now it's kind of exasperated into that.
Patty, can I ask you a question? Maybe you and Ron. Is it feasible that we do paint on the sidewalks? E-vehicle or e-bikes not allowed on this sidewalk? I mean, is there a...
I'm going to defer to Ron on that one, Mayor.
Oh, you could do that. I mean, we have certain sidewalks that are not owned by us, but we have traffic control of, Eaton being one of them.
Right.
We have signalization control there. And Officer Goffalay can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we have done that in the past with striping, all kinds of control issues on roads that don't belong to us. So on US 1, on the boulevard, yeah, it's a little bit more problematic because we don't own the sidewalk or the road there. Right. But I think we do have signalization in certain regards there too, not traffic control, not on the roadbed. Okay. But I think it'd be an easy solution to find.
But if we didn't own the sidewalk, such as North Roosevelt Boulevard, we could install signage, right? I mean,
Generally speaking, yeah, we have, from my understanding, a good relationship with those folks and those kind of low fruit kind of things. It's like Commissioner Kaufman's aware of the Hawk and the traffic control devices for vehicles are the little bit more problematic ones.
okay, all right, okay, thank you.
But we maintain those sidewalks though, right?
We maintain the trees, the coconut trees. That was an agreement we entered
And
into
mowing.
at FDOT. Sorry?
And mowing. They
Mowing,
mow
yeah.
South Roosevelt
Correct.
Boulevard.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question? Patty, why do we not in the city have dedicated bicycle lanes that would protect the bicyclist and protect the pedestrian? Last summer I went to Boston. They have dedicated bike lanes all over the city. You can bicycle all over the city, and pedestrians and bicycles don't have to mix. The same thing is true in New York City, by the way. You could, believe it or not, in Manhattan, they rent bicycles and they have dedicated bike lanes in Manhattan. Why do we not have really any? We do?
Southern Street has Fleming.
But I mean, the question is the multi-use paths. What about why on the multi-use paths, which is of great concern to the folks in the audience, why is there not a dedicated protected lane for bicycles? For bicycles to be in a driving lane, that's really unsafe for a lot. I mean, to ask our tourists to rent a bicycle, electric bicycle, and to be on the boulevard in the type of traffic that we have now doesn't seem to make sense either. So I don't understand why on the multi-use paths, which are so wide, why don't we have a configuration where there's dedicated space for these e-devices? Is there a reason why that's never been done?
Commissioner Kaufman, are you talking about separating the multi-use path? One is pedestrians, one is bicycles and e-vehicles, e-bikes?
Well, have a design where there is a dedicated lane just for bicycles and these e-devices. They're not only bicycles, they're the the stand-up scooters and these, I don't know, the things that you're on one wheel, I don't know what that's called, but they're a lot of different types of devices, and why there wouldn't be a separation, because I think Ms. Einstein said it correctly, that there's a collision course here, everyone's on the same path. Why is there, I mean, there's a pretty wide space. I don't know why that there isn't a design that is implemented where you could separate the.
I just want to
the
make sure I
folks.
understand that I'm hearing you correctly, Commissioner. On the North Roosevelt Promenade, if you will, it's wide, and we're all using scooters, I mean, e-bikes and things of that sort. Are you referring to separating that and making it a dedicated?
There has to be a design. I mean, all these other cities do it. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, maybe our
I think-
engineering department can help us here. There has to be a design with the space that is there that could accommodate a separate dedicated lane for bicycles. There has to be a way to do this. There's a wide enough space from the seawall to the roadway. I would think there has to be a way to do this.
I think we can look at it, but it's also the state's road, but I think DOT is listening to us tonight, and there's something we can go back and have those conversations.
And are there other places in Florida? Years ago, my family, we vacationed in Madera Beach. I think I'm saying that right. In Madera Beach and St. Pete Beach, they have dedicated lanes for bicycles.
Most of these locations you're talking about have really wide streets and wide sidewalks. You know, our sidewalks, a lot of places are a lot more narrow. The same thing with our streets. You know, if there's a way in which we can look at the various streets and sidewalks and say, okay, this is something we can do on these, but some of them just can't be done. You know, so I think that needs to be looked at and analyzed by the engineers or whoever.
Yeah, the space is definitely the issue.
Yeah. I have a question, and it's probably, why aren't these e-bikes required to have some kind of identification tag? Every car has to have a tag on it. Every motorcycle has to have a tag on it. These e-bikes do not have to have any kind of tag. They can hit somebody and take off. Nobody has any identifying marks. I mean, I don't know if it's something that we could do as a local ordinance, requiring them to have tags that you know we can use for enforcement purposes with the revenue we generate from there. I think it's something that we may want to.
I'll look into it a little bit further, but
Let me just
Sorry.
finish this last thing, because I'm a little bit older than some, but I can remember back in the 60s, there was a requirement for residents to register their bikes with the police department, and they were given a decal. I don't know what happened to that ordinance. I don't know if when we
It's still on the
rewrote all
books.
the ordinances a number of years ago and eliminated things, that was one that was eliminated. But maybe that is something we need to look at again also.
I do believe we still register the bikes, Commissioner.
But they don't get a, do they get a tag?
You
I
get
mean,
you get a little tiny sticker that you can put
sticker?
anywhere on the bicycle. Most people put it underneath so that when people steal their bike, they won't see it.
So,
It doesn't say where you have to put it. We mostly use it for theft. That's the main reason we have the stickers. And I have a sticker on my bike that is up where you could see it, but if I ran into you and rode away, there's no way you'd know what number. I don't know what number it is.
Okay, Chief, you want to continue?
Do you want me to take questions or no?
No. Oh, do we have any more questions? Oh,
Okay, one of the questions that I have is, what is required of the rental people that are renting the e-bikes and scooters to tell these people that lights are required at night, that they can't go over 15 on the shared roadway because they don't, no one follows any rules at all. And I see e-bikes and bicycles from these rental companies with no lights on at night, and they're lucky they don't kill a bunch of people.
So at least 4 times a year, I think we go around to all the companies and remind them. There is some turnover at the rental places, and you're right. I don't think they They fully explain it to everybody, and everybody's excited to be on vacation, and they aren't really listening to what they're told when they rent their bicycle. But at least 4 times a year, we go around, the motorcycle guys, the 6 guys I got to do all this, they go around to all the companies and remind them, hey, listen, you got to have a light on it. You got to have a white light to the front, red light to the rear. You know, what would they issue? They have to issue a lock. There's all these rules that they have to follow, and these guys go out and educate the current employees. We do the same thing. We found out that there was a rental company that was renting golf carts and telling them that they weren't required to wear a seatbelt. Well, we found out about that through traffic stops. One day we were out, that was our thing. We were out stopping golf carts with no seatbelts on. And they found out there were, we noticed that there was this one company, everybody didn't have their seatbelt on. And they told the guys, no, they told us we didn't have to wear a seatbelt. So we went to the company and said, listen, it's a car. You still have to wear your seatbelt. You can't tell people not to wear a seatbelt. So that employee got corrected, and now he no longer tells them they don't have to wear it. But it's a continuous, we're continuously going to those companies and educating them.
Yeah, they should be required to put a piece of paper to say where the shared paths are and the speed limits, and that you will be potentially fined $500. And that might wake somebody up. I mean, the drunk tourist, who knows?
Right.
Thank you. I'd just like to follow up on what she said about the information. I think it would be really helpful to have it published in several languages, such as Spanish and Creole. So I don't know how much control there is in having that, but I think that would be helpful, because I found that there's a lot of great information in here, excuse me, that I didn't even know. A lot of etiquette about using a bell when you're passing and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. The second thing is, on the multi-use trail, there are areas, or paths, there are areas that are actually only single wide going along North Roosevelt. And so not only is there the speed issue, but there's the width of the e-bikes. They're oftentimes much wider than a regular bike. So when you combine speed and width, there are times that I will just stop and just make sure no one's coming, and then hurry up and get on my bike and rush through that single part, because I'm so afraid of meeting up with an e-bike, even if they're going the speed limit, and then falling into traffic. So that's just one other issue. Thank you.
My concern is at night, or even during the day, you're walking down the street and all of a sudden it goes whizzing by you. You had no idea they're coming. Isn't there, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I used to take a baseball card and put it on the spokes. Isn't there something that we can get? I know that on eBay they have a thing like that, like a baseball card, but maybe a low whistle or something that could be put on these bikes so they're not trying to scare the bejesus out of you as you go down the road. And I don't want to do like a friend of mine does, carry an umbrella sticking out to keep them away from me. I mean, there's got to be something that can be done.
Right. They're supposed to give you an audible signal when they go by you.
Oh, yeah, they're supposed to.
Right.
But there should be something on the bike maybe.
Right. And so, not to give away where I live, but I walk on the shared, or not the shared, the bike path over by the senior citizens in Point Siena. I walk it a couple times a day. That most of the e-bikes do have a bit of a little hum, but I don't have any background noise there, right? I'm not on the boulevard. I don't have cars around. So and I don't know the legality of making them make a noise. I'm not sure.
Hi. First of all, God love you guys, because you do so much work and you're so overworked, and we thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
And the other thing is that a lot of the e-bikes, are they all required to be registered?
No.
Only the rental companies, right? Yeah, okay.
Ryan
Only the
can
rental
clarify.
companies have to register e-bikes. Yeah.
Oh, there's a licensing requirement, is what Ryan's saying.
Because really, about 5 out of 6 bicycles nowadays are e-bikes. And especially when you're going down Roosevelt Boulevard, if you're on the right side going north or south, there's no room at all for you and an e-bike. And if I'm waiting at a bus stop, there's no way that if I don't see it coming, I have to literally get out of the way, because they don't do it. And the other thing is, does the state of Florida allow e-bikes how did this designation get picked for where the e-bikes are allowed on the sidewalk in Key West?
How does it get, how
Yeah, how did we pick this route?
the
The
multimodal?
criteria?
I don't know if Ryan has any historical information on that.
Hi, my name is Ryan Starsky. I'm multimodal with City of Key West. So I actually was not employed by the city when this ordinance was passed. To my knowledge, the state of Florida.
Hey, Ryan, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Ryan.
Closer,
Sorry.
how about now? No? Now? Okay. Sorry, I'll go really close here. So Ryan Stahersky, multimodal. Now I can hear it in my ears. So when the ordinance passed, I believe this is a city ordinance that you're referring to with that map. So the state of Florida changed, basically created a rule that would allow e-bikes to operate on sidewalks, and then allowed Key West to designate an area where we could exclude them. And so Key West, with this ordinance, excluded all sidewalks, yet allowed those identified areas. How those were exactly chosen, I wasn't part of that discussion, but I would suspect that since many of our workforce come from Stock Island or beyond and use the vehicles to get in, that they wouldn't want to force all of those operators onto North Roosevelt, for example. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, it does. I just think that anything that has a motor like that can go 29 miles an hour should be on the road, not in the pedestrian right away. Thank you.
Can I help answering that question?
Go ahead.
I was the sponsor of the ordinance that regulates e-bikes, and I believe the direction of the commission in the early process was to restrict all sidewalks restrict e-bikes from all sidewalks. And then the city legal department, Natalia, who I don't know if she's still in the city or not, but she's now left the city. She was the attorney on this issue. And the research they had done is the state had designated these multi-use paths, and they told us that we could not have the law apply to the multi-use paths because of the state designation of these pathways. But that's why everywhere else has the designation of no e-bikes.
If I may. Just as a clarification, my wife and I walk on the boulevard daily, and it's risking life and limb is what we've come to realize, and it gets worse every year. But this map indicates that the boulevard is an acceptable place to ride e-bikes, but I think I read that only the water side should be designated. Ryan, is that true?
Is it only the water side?
I'm not aware of that. I think that goes along with what Commissioner Kaufman was saying about dividing it up.
Well, I mean, the other side of the street, across the street.
Oh, right. Yes.
Is that a designated e-bike?
Right, the wider part that's against the ocean. That's what you're talking about, right?
I'm talking about across the street.
On the business side?
Yeah.
No, it's the other side. That's the multimodal.
Well, that's what this map says, that the boulevard, the entire boulevard is acceptable.
No, I think they're referring to the wider sidewalk that's on the ocean side of North Roosevelt Boulevard.
I guess the map is flawed, is what I'm saying here, because that is really, really risky being on that side of on the other sidewalk, because they're blasting down that road too.
I think the intention of the map was to create a continuous path from Stock Island, like Ryan was saying, to either take South or North Roosevelt Boulevard, around to Palm, which is also state-owned, and then you see it just stops at the end of Palm, because then it turns into a county road. So the state statute in 2021 allowed us to regulate the multi-use paths.
That makes perfect sense, but as I say, I think the map is flawed in that regard. It does not differentiate. It's got a broken line on the entire
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I just never heard that argument before. I don't know why anybody would ride on the business side where you have driveways every 10 feet.
Yeah.
So.
They do. Yeah.
They all do.
They do.
Yeah.
I would challenge anybody who's not a pedestrian customarily, is to get out there and walk from the police station to Winn-Dixie any given day at 9 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and see what it's like, see what you think. But thank you.
I got you. Everybody that is raising their hand, I'm getting you in order.
Chief Brandenburg,
You're good.
Chief Brandenburg, going back to what you said about the bike path by the Senior Citizens Plaza and down Staples, are e-bikes allowed on those? Those aren't part of the designated.
Legally, no, but they do go through there. I
Okay,
mean,
that was
it's
my
either
question.
that or they have to drive around, 6 blocks? So
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
I'm not so much as a walker, but I ride my bike, and at least 10 times a week, we're almost knocked over by the e-bikes. So if we do a designated bike lane, I don't think the e-bikes should be in there, because just like the walkers, they don't notify you, they just zoom by you. We have bikes and we might be 10 feet apart, and they'll go around one of us and then around the other one. So it's not only the walkers, it's the majority of the bicycles will say on your left, e-bikes say nothing. And the scooters too. I mean, the scooters are, kids can be 8 years old and have be on those scooters, the motorized scooters. I think that's way too young, way too young. And the suggestion of registering the bikes or anything, the scooters, whatever, I think is a wonderful idea, because if you have somebody almost knocking you over every day, it'd be nice to be able to give someone a number, and say, you need to check this person or whatever. So definitely bikes and e-bikes should not be in the same lane.
Chief, to the extent that the police department can, I would prefer that instead of civil citations, you issue criminal citations, because the penalty is, I think, would be a B misdemeanor.
A civil citation is a criminal citation.
What's
It's
that?
a misdemeanor citation.
I think
I'm sorry. The ones that we write for the city ordinance under 115 are a criminal misdemeanor citation.
Okay, because
A notice to appear is a criminal citation.
because I thought somebody was I think that somebody mentioned a civil citation and a $50 fine. I don't think that's much of a deterrent. I don't think that county judges are going to be sending people to jail, but maybe if they get a repeat offender enough times, maybe a judge will do that. And I think that would serve as a deterrent, because it's, like I said before, it's getting increasingly dangerous. And I'm 77 years old. I get hit by an e-bike. It's not going to work out well for me. And I'm a pedestrian, and I'm going to keep on being a pedestrian because I have to. Thank you.
Chief, is there any option for electronic enforcement? Like if the city implemented Commissioner Weekly's idea of a license plate or an identification, something that was required to be rear facing, is there maybe you don't know the answer to this question yet, because is there technology out there like there is for cars? They did it up where we're from originally in Tampa, with you ran red lights, it sent you a thing in the mail. Would that, I think that would help, because it helps solve the problem with manpower, because you only have so much manpower, and that's a whole other issue for a different day. Is there any sort of technology program out there, or could we at least explore that, where it kind of maybe if somebody does 16 miles an hour on the boulevard, it nails them and sends them a ticket in the mail?
So one of the problems, like I said earlier, is with our radar. With a radar, which is what that uses, it generally, unless there's a human running it, it generally picks the biggest item, right? So we're going to end up sending you a ticket for driving your car 30 when an e-bike passed you at 50, at 18. So no, I don't. There's problems. Some things need a human. That's just like the triangle. I still contend that my guys can get you through the triangle faster than the computers can, and I've proved it time and time again. And that's not me. That's my guys and gals that are just smarter than the machines, and because we do it every day. So that some things we still need a human to be part of.
Hey, Chief,
Ma'am.
do you have to be a police officer to run the laser, to operate the laser?
No.
Well, to write a ticket,
Yeah.
I think yes, you do, but to run it, no. So we're gonna have Ryan and a few other people in town or with the city trained so that they can at least go out and collect data for us, so that we know what time of day to have the officers out there.
But that data cannot include that specific bike and the speed that that bike's going for
It will
you
in-
to issue a citation?
No. Ryan can't tell me how fast a bike was going and have me write a ticket. No, ma'am.
Okay, so he can't operate the laser?
He can operate the laser and he can tell me how many bikes he clocked at what speeds, but that's all he can tell me. I can't write a citation off of it.
Okay.
But that will tell me that between 3 and 4, that's the time when people are speeding the most, and then that's when I send an officer out there, and then the officers write the citations. It's the same thing as the speed trailers in the neighborhoods.
I just want to support the idea of differentiating, on the map if possible. I don't know how you're going to get it out to the people who really need it and should know. I mean, we're speaking to the, the choir here. We're all in support of whatever you can do. But I can say as a driver, when I'm driving, one, I no longer ride my bike. It just doesn't get ridden any longer. And I have 5 of them, for when I have company, and have to warn them about everything, including driving. But I can say on the business side of North Roosevelt Boulevard, when you're pulling out and you've got traffic speeding, which we all know they all do on the boulevard, and you've got several bikes, e-bikes, bikes, and walkers not following the flow of the traffic, you are looking multiple times every way so that you do not hit someone on that sidewalk pulling out of the business section. It's frightening to drive in this town. I mean, if you don't have quick responses and are totally a defensive driver, you could kill several people a day. It's that easy if you're driving around. It's very frightening to drive as well as to walk. And then I'm hearing it from the bicyclists too.
Chief, I think so far tonight we've heard lots of good comments and great ideas, especially the idea of painting a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on the actual surface of these promenades. The part about whether you're allowed to ride an e-bike on the business side of North Roosevelt is a very good point, because the map here is not clear. For example, it should say here, north side only.
I don't know this, but I'm gonna presume that the state owns both sidewalks, so the rule is gonna be the same, right? Because it came from the state.
Oh, I thought
I'd have to
someone
check
said
that.
it's only permitted on the north side of the boulevard.
We've never heard that argument before, but I'm thinking that the state has to own both sidewalks.
The state owns all of North Roosevelt.
There you go. So
yes, but I believe the designation of the multi-modal, correct. And I'll double check that, but
yeah, we got to check.
Anyway, that's unclear. That could be cleared up. I think the suggestion that some signage be painted on selected sidewalks like Eaton Street that says no e-bikes, I think that's a great idea, because now people are on notice, and at least half the people will take notice, and and do the right thing. I live in Midtown. I've been here 13 years. I walk every day. I have bicycles that we use when our family comes and visits, and we have e-bikes. And I do all 3 of those. So I get to see it from all kinds of perspectives, including my automobile. And I would just like to say, climbing up to 40,000 feet here, we're here to talk about e-bike regulation and so on, but let's not lose sight that my e-bike, before I had an e-bike, I was driving my car everywhere. All right, from Midtown to go down to see a show, I would be in my car, or to go to Publix, I'd be in my car. And my e-bike has taken my car, which has emissions, gasoline emissions and pollution, off the road. And so I would ask us not to lose sight of that big picture. And e-bikes can be good if properly used, and the trick is going to be figuring out how to get people to properly use them.
Yeah, Chief, if I can interject here, because you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah. Our objective tonight is to not bash e-vehicles. It is to find out, how we can live harmoniously and safely with them, because they're here to stay. So how do we do that? And you just reiterated 3 really good suggestions, and that's what we're here to hear. Proposed solutions. How do we live harmoniously with e-vehicles and do it safely and effectively for the city of Key West?
I think we have a couple more questions, and then if we can, we'll let the chief finish his slide. We're going to continue to have questions throughout.
They have to hear you on.
No.
Hello. Kevin Smith. I live in Midtown also. I ride my bike everywhere. Idea about painting on the sidewalk is brilliant, because I understand Sean's concern with putting 15 miles an hour. Can you imagine what would happen there? But it's also awesome that at some of the bus stops we have 15 mile an hour that pops up every once in a while. I think the big issue with a lot of e-bike riders, and to tell you the truth, the majority of them are locals. And be it they live in Stock Island or Key West or wherever it is, they either don't understand or comply with the rules. And I think it's more lack of knowledge. Because, I ride through Midtown to Stock Island to drive for one of the hotels up here. And I guess that will, so when I'm watching these e-bikes just blowing through stop signs without even looking, and I'm not going to mention anybody else's names, but I have been known to also to just on my bicycle roll through a stop sign. It's a purple Specialized rock hopper, if you guys are looking for me. But they either don't understand or they don't care, and it's a great mode of transportation, like you said. And we'll get it figured out. I did have another, as I drive my hotel shuttle, it is frustrating to see the e-bikes passing me on North Roosevelt Boulevard on the sidewalk. And I'm going 35, and they're passing me on the sidewalk. So I understand everybody's frustration with trying to get these shared lanes together. And I thought that was another good idea. Draw a line right down the middle. One's for bikes, one's for pedestrians. But we got to get the e-bikes off the sidewalks. We just got to get them off the sidewalks.
Okay, Chief.
I have a comment on the all e-bike vehicle map we have here. One of the real dangerous places on this route is over Garrison Veit Bridge, and that's because the sidewalk is so narrow there that if you're walking or pedal biking going over there and someone comes around you and you try to stop, if you step off that curb, which is also a problem, like it's about 2.5, 3 feet high maybe, you're stepping right into traffic to get out of their way, as opposed to other curbs where you can maybe step off a little bit. Very dangerous place. And the problem is you'll be going in the right direction, and there'll be e-bike people coming from the opposite direction, moving along, and I think that area is very dangerous, so that maybe we need to put up some signs there that say either e-bikes have to keep in the street or they have to go flow with the traffic going across that bridge. I would just like that to be considered somewhere in this, in these notes. And the other thing is, I was at an FDOT meeting a couple of weeks ago here, and we've had bike and pedestrian problems down at the corner of Bertha and Atlantic Ave, and it's been during construction, but you can't see around that 1800 corner there for pedestrians and bikers. So I was at the meeting here, I suggested they stripe that corner, and sure enough, 3 or 4 days later, you saw a nice stripe in there so that you can keep to the side you should. Otherwise, pedestrians and bikers have gotten hurt on that corner. FDOT did a great job of listening to us at that meeting a couple of weeks ago.
All right, we good? All right. I'm going to bring it up. I don't remember what they're called. The side-by-side wheel thingies that got the wheels on both sides. Those are the personal assistive mobility devices, and they're prohibited. You can't do tours on those downtown. You can't. Those are just, for sake of argument, I brought that up. Or that's one of the slides. That's it. That's what I was looking. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Segways, yeah, could be worse. Let's see. Skip that one. Oh, and again, inline skating, rollerblading. This was a big topic a while back. Skateboards. A skateboard's a skateboard, whether it's got a motor or not by city ordinance. You can't skateboard in Duval. I know that they do. At times we take action against that. But again, we have to be there and catch them doing it. And I'm just trying to get through this roller skating. None of this has come up tonight. Any of the penalties. So there you go. That's it. I mean, if you want to know about skateboards, we can talk about skateboards too. But I think tonight's mostly about e-bikes. So there we go.
Sir, I'm sorry. Sir, could you wait? Could you wait for a microphone? We've got people on Zoom and they can't hear you. Yeah. Well, see, that's why you need a microphone.
Make sure you get a microphone for that part.
Madam Mayor, just to let you know, Commissioner Carey is on Zoom, I believe also, so you know. Sorry? Yes, we said that earlier.
Chief is taller. Thank you, Dorian. Can you all hear me now? No. All right, I'll just try to talk louder. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, and thank you all for coming. There you go. All right, so I wanted to share with you all some of the information about crash statistics because I know this comes up a lot. People are curious about it. So up here on this map, I have a heat map with data that's provided by Signal 4 Analytics, and this is not, this is considered preliminary data, so just take it with a grain of salt, but I wanted to share what we can see as we're looking at crash data. So for 2022, again, this is not confirmed official, but we see on this map 717 total crashes throughout the city of Key West. If you look at crashes involving pedestrians or bicyclists, now these generally include e-bikes or motorized scooters, you'll see that there were 46, which is about 6% of the total crashes that happen in the city of Key West. So if you kind of do the opposite, 93% are not involving e-bikes or bicyclists or pedestrians. So if we flash back 10 years, it's a long time ago. 2012, we had total bicycle and pedestrian crashes. This is probably before e-bikes and motorized scooters were playing a role. We had 126. We had 0 fatalities, 14 incapacitating injuries. So I'm just going to fast forward here through the years, and you can see the map the red kind of grows a little bit. We get to 2015, we have 187 total bicycle pedestrian crashes, a fatality. And then you'll see 2016, the number is 161, and then it starts dropping. We had the pandemic. The rest of the country saw a big increase in collisions, but not in Key West. 2021, 2022. So again, this is preliminary, but it paints a picture for you all. And I thought that you might enjoy seeing that. Not enjoy, that's not the right word, but it helps to describe. So you know, they're going down. The crashes that we see are going down, but we have a Vision Zero goal of 0 fatalities and 0 incapacitating injuries on our roads, and we're still, you know, way far away from that. So pedestrians and bicyclists are vulnerable roadway users, even though it's a small fraction. They're more likely to be injured. So pedestrians walking on North Roosevelt, even the e-bikes speeding down, they're more likely to be injured than if you're in your car and you get in a crash. So not all crashes are reported. We know that if you get a small injury, you might not report it to the authorities for whatever reason. Now you can, in certain circumstances, you can report things. It's called self-reporting. I believe that's the phrase, right? If there are injuries involved, you should report it. And I think there's a damage limit. I'm not an expert on that. But also, this doesn't track close calls. And I think we might be seeing more close calls with the e-bikes. And so it's a close call, and it's a near miss, and it's obviously a concern if that becomes, you know, a strike. So I wanted to go over some of the stuff that the chief already covered, but just kind of point out what rules affect safety. So electric bicycles should have a label identifying the classification and top speed. This was new laws of 2021. So if this vehicle that's on the road, you and I might look at it and we might think we're looking at an e-bike. It might not be an e-bike. It might be something that's not even permitted to be on that road. So the vehicles the e-bikes that are sold now, they would have a sticker like this on them, and you can look for that sticker. And if you see that sticker, then it'll tell you how fast it can go. If it's not there, it's not permitted to be used on the road or on the sidewalk. And it might not be safe. You know, it didn't go through the consumer product safety. It hasn't, you know, no one's checked to make sure all the bolts are tight on it. So we also have rules that are to encourage safety for operators. So the motorized scooter, and you all know what the motorized scooter is. I have a terrible picture, but it's the one up top, right? It's the one that looks like a little Razor kick scooter, but it has an electric motor in it. So those guys, they only go 20 miles an hour. If you see one that looks like that and it's going faster than 20 miles an hour, it shouldn't be there. It's needs a ticket, or maybe the owner should be reminded that it's unsafe. They should be on a closed course or something. So operators under 16 have to wear a helmet. So this is for bicyclists, for electric bicyclists, for people on motorized scooters. Also, no parent may authorize a minor to violate this, and there's a Florida statute for that. So operators must use front and rear lights at night. I'm sure everybody here in this audience knows that. It's for your own safety, and, you know, it helps other people see you, but also helps you see that pothole. I know we don't have potholes in Key West, but they're out there, and they'll eat your tire and throw you, so you have to watch out for those. You know, we make them available for free for people. They can pick them up at City Hall. You probably saw some outside when you came in. They're available at the library. They're available at the police station. So if you see someone who doesn't have a light, and you might have one of these, you could give it to them and help them out. You might just save their life, you don't know. If you see someone riding around without one, tell them, hey, stop by City Hall, stop by the library, pick up a free light. So operators must yield to pedestrians. Obviously, we talked about that. You have to alert passing. We give away bells to help encourage this. The bell's not required, but it's easy if you're on if you're an operator to just ring the bell. You do it not right as you're close to the person. You do it so they have time to hear you, and then step aside if they want to. They don't have to because they have the right of way. But bells are a nice, easy way to do this. We have them available as well to hand out. So electric bicycles, motorized scooters, and micromobility devices, they're not permitted on the sidewalks. We went over this. They are permitted on the paths, and they're restricted to 15. That's the map. So I don't know if does anybody have any questions about what I went over right now, or should I go ahead and move on? Yeah, yes, in the back.
Are there any statistics about crashes on the bridge on Staples over the canal? Because we've actually seen people ram into that bridge. That's not a safe bridge.
That's thank you for that. So I haven't, for the purpose of this, I didn't pull up that data to find out about Staples. There have been collisions on there, and as you may be aware, the bridge is going to be replaced in the near future, and we are taking steps to improve the traffic of that to make it. Nothing is set in stone right now, but the goal is to have a separated pathway for pedestrians, so they can walk without having this concern of people flying by them. And then we'll have certain restrictions where it'll tighten up, so people won't be able to just whiz through there, and you won't be able to squeeze golf carts and what have you through there. But we are taking steps to improve that Staples Bridge. It's a huge thoroughfare for those in the non-motorized crowd. A lot of people take it to get to work, so it is an important part of our city. All right, so I'll just skip ahead here. So I want to talk about recreational rental vehicles. Recreational rental vehicles is it's a bigger set of vehicles than we've been talking about today, but it does include the ones that are rented, like the e-bikes and the motorized scooters. And it includes, so recreational rental vehicles includes all of these things. It's basically stuff that you can rent that's not a car. So it's a lot of items in there. And they're licensed. The people who rent these, they get a license from the city, and they have to get it updated yearly, I believe.
Ron, we'll let the city attorney speak to that in just a minute when you're.
Okay. So these, when these are rented to folks, they have to offer them a helmet. They have to provide front and rear lights. So this is something that you all have certainly seen, but there are requirements for that. So when the micromobility ordinance of the city was passed in, I want to say it was July of 2021, there was a 1-year period to establish the number of recreational rental vehicles operating within the city. And we put together a request for qualifications, RFQ, to find out if we could hire someone to do this study for us. Unfortunately, we didn't get any takers on it. And since the time that has happened, this moratorium.
We're still working on that. Yeah, we're still working with the moratorium. We're still working on that.
Okay.
I didn't want to get too much into that tonight for these purposes.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead, and then I can defer. So I'm going to go ahead into education. So just point out some of the stuff that we've been doing in the city. So we have public safety announcements on the city's social media page. We've partnered with FDOT for safety campaigns through social media. I understand not everybody uses it, not everybody hears these messages, but they do help us somewhat to get the word out. And in this particular way, we've last year reached the reach is 40,000, so that's like people getting a message. So it's not necessarily 40,000 different people. But it's how many messages that we actually got out to different folks. So we also engage on location to educate safe cycling techniques. So lady mentioned the Staples Bridge. So we've set up at Staples Bridge a couple times to hand out lights to people, educate them on speeding, using their bell, and everybody kind of likes to get free stuff, I guess. So it's usually well received when we get a chance to offer this to folks. We've set up on North Roosevelt as well to do the same. So as the chief mentioned earlier, we're researching opportunities to improve signage to communicate the requirements to folks. So, and this is a challenge because of the changing technology. The signs that we're permitted to install they don't really communicate the message that we want to communicate. So that's kind of explains the concerns that we've had. Also, a lot of people don't want to see additional sign clutter. That aside, at a very minimum, when you enter this multi-use path, we should be able to communicate the requirements to folks. As was mentioned earlier, we're looking into pavement markings, and I guess that is all. Anybody have any questions?
Ryan, just a comment, and toward the end might be a good place for this. A lot of people don't realize the batteries that power these things presently are not part of our hazardous household waste recycling, or can be taken at the transfer station at Rockland Key. The only two places right now that can take those batteries are up at Cudjoe transfer station and Home Depot. So as these things wear out and tend to die, it's probably going to be something we're going to have to face with a disposal idea of where these things are going to go, and it's going to be a large cost per battery to get rid of. So just a little seed to plant and know that that's coming at some point in time.
So they can't take those to our hazardous waste at the Wildlife Center on Saturdays?
Currently, they cannot.
It was interesting, very interesting, Matt. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ryan?
I do have one question.
Commissioner Carey, I'm going to get to you in just a minute.
Kathleen Ford. I live at 2800 Staples Avenue. The transportation has turned into, the e-bikes are the scourge of the streets, and pedestrians are being so disenfranchised. And I think it's an awfully cute, romantic idea to think that you're going to paint a speed limit on the street and they're going to obey. I sit on my front lawn because I'm retired. I'm out there by that bridge all day long and into the night. And, when that bridge was built, they put signs, no motorized vehicles. There's one on each side of the bridge. This was back when it was just mopeds. There's always been mopeds come across that bridge, and they make it over pretty easy. It's not the mopeds that tip over, it's the bicyclists because of the way it's built. I'm scared to think how you're going to improve it to keep e-bikes, and I mean, you're not going to keep, but you've told me that they're allowed to take that, to traverse that bridge. But it is so dangerous. It's like walking on Roosevelt Boulevard on that street at night. And, all these, your pretty little signs and the romantic notion that you're going to make more laws, or, the milk of human kindness would dictate that people would tell us before they scream by us at 18, 20 miles an hour. And, it's so dangerous for all of us any pedestrians and the bicyclists now on the streets. But I appreciate that you want to improve things, but I see the future is it's e-bikes and scooters and mopeders, and John Jones, hand to God, wasn't going to have motorized vehicles on Staples Avenue Bridge, and now we got it all. And so I just wish us well, and I hope your little plans work, but I don't see it. I don't see any improvement when there's no courtesy with bikes. You give out the lights. I can tell you 95% of the people that go by on motorized vehicles, e-bikes included, I include them in the umbrella of motorized vehicles, don't have lights at night, don't have sirens. It's a four-way stop. 80% of them don't stop at the light, or not sorry, the light, the stop signs. It's the Wild West out there. I mean, all the streets of Key West, but you know, it's not just downtown. It's Newtown also. So, thanks.
Thank you for sharing. I do walk by, and I'm sorry, I do walk over Staples Bridge at nighttime. I've experienced that. It is something that I think that we should improve. Thank you.
Do we have some more questions?
Hi there. I have a comment. I want to thank Chief Brandenburg. It made my heart sing this morning on the way to work to see one of them get pulled over. So I've been watching them closely. I live on North Roosevelt, off of North Roosevelt Boulevard, and every single time I turn to go to work, there's someone speeding, going the opposite way. They cut the intersections, and I agree with her, it's dangerous, but I have to say, they are improving now that they're manning more, you know, you have more manpower. But I would love to see, it's just my input, them only allowed to go one way at a certain speed, because some of these are passing me doing 30 on the boulevard. That's how dangerous they are. And they're going the opposite way. You can check both ways, and when you go, they're on top of you. One hit me one time, and that's, I mean, it's just, you think it's clear and it's not, because they bam come out of nowhere from the wrong side. So I would love to see a little bit more rules as far as they are equivalent to a car as fast as they go right now, and they're going the opposite way. They don't stop. They cross diagonal on the intersections. So I see an improvement with the enforcement, but they need to not be able to go the opposite way 30 miles an hour on the boulevard.
Doreen, we have one up here.
Well, I have to tell you that I came here today to be informed, learn a little bit of something about what's going on in this community. I'm going to be 80 in April, and I love to walk. And I love this community, and it's painful that these things are happening, but I think it's just a sign of the times, and we have to learn how to live with it. And as we all are trying to do now, I would rather approach it from a positive way. So the first thing I'd like to say is when you mentioned about having it written, some of these things in Spanish, because a lot of people that we're fortunate to have in this community now are keeping it alive by being able to be service people. They have to have a place to live. They can't live, I live on Eisenhower. They have to have a place to live, and if it's Stock Island, they have to have a way to get to work without a car. So this is like the way of the times. It's what we have to accept at this point in time, and we have to know that it's going to take time to make it work. It's never going to be what it was. When I first came here, I was always able to walk and bike, and it never concerned me. Now, when I walked on Eaton Street, which you mentioned, and I turn continuously, and I'm a pretty strong walker, I see people, and then I see nothing, and all of a sudden I have very large bikes passing me. I made a choice after having conversations with some friends that I'm not going down Eaton Street anymore because I don't feel safe. So I've switched to Casa Marina area to do my walking, but not everyone has the luxury to switch. So the next best thing for me would be to see, like I said, Eaton Street, if there were enough feet involved to separate, because we can't get out of the way of a fast-moving vehicle. And not everyone's paying attention, and not everyone understands the rules. The best I could see happening after being here today is have, as you showed on the picture, a little tent set up somewhere, maybe where people are coming in from Stock Island, and the things be written in Spanish. We maybe can form a group of people that can be in different communities. Even when I passed on Tropical and somebody was coming down Von Pfister on one of these motorized scooters, that man went right through a stop sign And fortunately, the man next to me that was in a truck, he saw it and alerted me in a certain way. But we're not always that lucky to get out of the way. So by communicating with the people that have no knowledge of some of the things that I learned today, maybe there's a chance to make it better. It'll never be the same, because this is the way of the future with these e-bikes.
Just, Mayor and Commissioners, I do have some speakers on Zoom that would like, and one of them is Commissioner Carey, and I believe we have Commissioner Hoover. She would like to say something, but Commissioner Carey's waited, and she'd like to ask Ryan some questions. And I also want to say that I do have Christine Morales from FDOT on. We asked her to be here. If we have any questions for her tonight, we can certainly ask, but I'll send some things and have some follow-up documentation with her or conversations. So Commissioner Carey, are you ready?
Yes, I'm here, Patty. Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, we're ready to hear you. Just turn it up a little bit because your volume is low.
Absolutely. Yep. How's that? Is that better?
Better.
Okay, I just want to say there's some great suggestions so far. I actually live on the bike path. But I had a couple of quick questions for Ryan. In reference to the LG sticker that you had mentioned on the e-vehicles, you said that in order for them to be legal, that those stickers mean that it's been inspected. Is that correct, Ryan?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure about an inspection. That label is applied by the manufacturer, and there might be parameters to change it, but that label identifies that vehicle so that an operator or perhaps a police officer could identify what that vehicle is. It's very difficult to determine what's under the hood, so to speak, and that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that I'm not familiar with any further inspection.
Okay, I was asking. I just didn't know if there were. Thank you for the clarification on that. And then can I also get clarification on the Staples Bridge? Was it stated that that because there are no motorized vehicles signs on both sides of that bridge, but are they in fact not allowed to ride over that bridge?
I apologize in advance. I may have to defer. The Staples Bridge is not identified on the map. However, it is a pedestrian bridge, and the Florida statute that defines the e-bikes suggests that the e-bikes would be able to operate on a sidewalk where a bicycle would normally be able to operate. So it might be a little bit of a gray area, but it's something that maybe we could define at our local level.
Okay. And I just want to say that suggestion of the Spanish signs, I think, is a great one. These are important. Our workforce is certainly, using this bike route, and it's important to them. It's a great means of transportation for them. But these suggestions on, helping make it safer and better for the community, I'm encouraged to hear them. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Commissioner Hoover?
Yes, I was just thinking that, as we've talked tonight, and I know that we've had this discussion on the dais. I know Sam's brought it up, that the kids now are being able to soup up these bikes so that they're not going the 15 or 20 miles an hour that their motors say, but they're going 30 or 40 miles an hour. To me, it seems that we need to look into, first of all, how we curtail that sort of activity. And secondly, that this may be something we put on our lobbyists' plate to start talking at the state level, that some of these things need to be re-examined now in light of the number and types of vehicles and the danger of some of these vehicles to people who are just, not just the ones that live here, but to our tourists as well. So I would like us to do a little more work on that and see if we can't come up with what we've learned from tonight, put that in the form of some things we'd like to see change, and then let our lobbyists go to work on that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam Mayor, can I just to echo that and to ask the question to Ryan and maybe the chief. I have questions for you, and then I do have a couple questions for FDOT. But with regard to children, do we have any interfacing or data from the schools about how many children in the morning are bringing their scooters, their stand-up scooters, and other e-vehicles to school? And can we regulate children in terms of enforcing helmet and other safety equipment? There is really a danger here, and I think we should get ahead of this before we become reactionary. We're going, you know, if there, God forbid, there is a bad accident, I know what's going to happen. We're going to hear about it, then we're going to react and want to create a new ordinance. Why can't we do that now and figure out a way to protect the kids who are really evolving and using these stand-up scooters?
Commissioner, I might want to take that one if it's okay
Okay.
with Ryan. So one of the last city commission meetings, I mentioned House Bill 597 that was going through that would have allowed the cities to regulate safety measures, and especially for children. It got withdrawn. It got withdrawn 2 weeks ago in Tallahassee, so that's not going to happen, at least not right now. And along those lines, and hearing some of the speakers and what's being discussed, I do have some concern about field preemption. As you are aware, we have express preemption, and then we have implied or field preemption, and that's when, you know, the state or the federal government so pervasively regulates an area that although it's not expressly preempted, it's implied. So I'd have to do some more digging on whether or not the state of Florida intended to preempt the field of bicycles, e-bikes, and whatnot. And when you look at some of the state statutes on the issue, there are three. It looks like that's where they're intending, is to regulate that field. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned those two things. Staples Avenue Bridge, this is one moment to talk. Staples Avenue Bridge, it is a dedicated pedestrian bridge. If you look at the state statutes, they're only supposed to be on the roads unless they're on a multimodal pathway, and that is not a multimodal pathway. To the extent that it might interplay with the Crosstown Greenway, you know, that's something that we could possibly look into if we can, not to use a pun, but bridge that gap. But if you look at the strict reading of the state statutes, they would have to get off their bike, walk their bikes across that pedestrian bridge, and then get back on, because Staples doesn't have any sidewalks, at least not consistent ones. Registration of e-bikes, I think Commissioner Lopez, I saw you nodding that that's something you want to go. Again, field preemption, I'd have to look into whether or not we could do that, because that would be a scheme that would, if the state intended to regulate those kind of things, which seems like they are with the labels and that kind of stuff, we could have an issue doing that. So just wanted to bring up those points before we recess.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
So just to finish the point with children, what about a voluntary program? I'm telling you, parents out there don't know really everything there is about this. They see other kids' friends getting the scooter. They get the kid coming to the parent and saying, Johnny has the scooter, I want the scooter. And then it goes from there and it proliferates. I was at Key West High School today. I saw these stand-up scooters in the front lobby. If you go to HOB, right down the street, there's a room full of these stand-up scooters where the kids are bringing their scooters. So could we reach out to the schools in a voluntary program maybe, and an educational way, and say, hey, we recommend helmets, we recommend the lights, we recommend under 15 mile an hour, because there are these stand-up scooters that parents are buying that they don't even know, but they're not the legal ones. But the parents don't understand that. They're getting the 30 mile an hour one or the 35 mile an hour one, where they should be really cautioned to get the 15 mile an hour one. So can we start something maybe interfacing with the school and coming up with a voluntary program?
I think we can, Commissioner Kaufman, I think we can work with the schools in the education of this more, and I'll work with the police department and Ryan to do so with the HOB and high school and others at that time. So us educating I think we can do more than 4 times, not to more than 4 times a year, and I can work with the chief and his officers to do that.
Okay. As much as my son is going to see this and be mad at me, I'd love it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love it if the school said to me, look, we recommend you wear a helmet. And then I can say, look, they're saying it's recommended. It's not me. It's the school. And the parents, we need that kind of, we need to be told. I'm telling you, I think it would help. Okay, now if I can just ask some questions to FDOT. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good, and you?
Great, great. Thank you so much for being here. I have a question about North Roosevelt Boulevard. Is it possible for FDOT to look at the design of North Roosevelt Boulevard in light of the discussion tonight and maybe make some recommendations for a future redesign of the multi-use path to allow for a dedicated space for e-vehicles? Is that something FDOT could look at?
Well, I actually wanted to kind of give you a history as to why I'm even here. Ryan and I are part of the community traffic safety team from Monroe County, and he was the one where I was sharing with him an upcoming resurfacing project within North Roosevelt from Eisenhower Drive all the way to where it becomes South Roosevelt and Overseas Highway. And he had brought up to me saying, hey, we have an e-bike and motorized scooter problem. And we've been reviewing it since we've had that conversation. I want to say back in October of this past year. I'm currently reviewing that portion, and something that I can bring up to the attention of the consultants is to see if a redesign is feasible, but I cannot promise anything at this time. And again, it's just a portion of North Roosevelt. It's not all of North Roosevelt.
Right, right. We appreciate that, and if you could let us know through our manager's office, that would be great. A second item, and my last thing on this is there's an awful lot of obstructions on North Roosevelt Boulevard and dangerous crossways, egress and, to different driveways there. Gulfview Drive, Home Depot, if you look at the accident reports, you're going to see Home Depot is a hot spot. Where the Yacht Club is a hot spot. Where Centennial Bank is really tough. Midgard Storage, try to leave Midgard Storage and look to your right. Just try that. It's it's really hard to see any bicycles or any pedestrians coming from the right if you're exiting. And there's so many of these obstructed paths for cars that are entering onto North Roosevelt Boulevard. Is FDOT able to take a survey of that and actually walk it and make recommendations? I know that some of this is privately owned property, but geez, it's really unsafe for a lot of the drivers.
What I can say is the way that I would handle it, because I'm thinking of it as an engineer, I would have to first look at where our jurisdiction ends. I cannot promise where that jurisdiction currently is now, but I know where you're talking about. You're talking about the south side of North Roosevelt where there's a bunch of driveway openings. If our jurisdiction encroaches on those driveways and we want to do something about that, we'll look at that and we'll see what's feasible. And now that we're in this study phase, how I like to call it, now would be the perfect time to kind of look at it. So again, I'll take that idea into consideration. You mentioned Gulfview Drive, the Home Depot, and Midgard
Storage, Centennial Bank, the Yacht Club. I think it would be, if possible, I think it'd be great if we could have just a walking tour. It wouldn't take that long. If our multimodal traffic coordinator and our manager's office, if you all at your convenience could come down, and if we could just walk the boulevard, I think you'll see, just the different locations. There's quite a few of them.
Or take an e-bike.
Anyway, please
I
consider
do not
it.
want to ride an e-bike, but That's perfectly fine with me. I will check with obviously my supervisor to make sure that that's okay. And that's perfectly fine. If you want, Ryan can provide you my information, or if the host or panelists would like, I can send it in the webinar chat directly, and they can share that information with you on how to contact me.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina, and you can provide that to Jason through the chat.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can ask a question.
Please.
Yes. So this could be to the chief from the police department, or for Ryan. You guys mentioned at the beginning that there is an existing 15-mile-per-hour speed limit sign. I wanted to know, where exactly did you find that? Because I can't, because obviously, because I don't live there. I'm all the way in Miami, and I can't locate it on Google Earth when I try to use Street View.
It's not a sign. It's our bus stop, and it's a rotating advertisement. And one of the advertisements is a yellow background with the bicycle that says speed limit 15, and it's plugged into like a triangle. So it's kind of unique. And when it is up, it's very visible. But if you don't go by at the right time, you won't see it.
And it's a bus stop. I'm sorry, follow-up
front of
question.
Home
It's
Depot.
a bus stop in front of Home Depot. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Christina. And Mayor, Commissioners, if you have some questions for us?
No, actually, Patty, I think that we pretty much heard a lot of, or asked a lot of the questions that need to be asked, and we've heard a lot of things that we know we need to work on. I repeatedly we heard people talk about souping up the motors and stuff like that. I remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, when mopeds and scooters started really gained their popularity, and they were only supposed to be 25 miles an hour or something like that, and they were going up to 40 and 50, and because the kids knew how to soup them up. And I think Commissioner Kaufman actually made the statement that he knows that this is going on. So that's something else that we may need to be looking at quite seriously, because now you end up with a situation where because again, reflecting back on the old days with the mopeds and the scooters, a lot of them ended up having problems where they actually caught fire and stuff like that because they weren't souped up properly. And these things, we know all the issues with the electronic batteries and all of this sort of stuff, the lithium batteries and all this stuff. There's all kinds of things. I'm actually afraid. But I want to relate a situation that I was a part of just last week. My wife and I were leaving one of our gas stations on North Roosevelt, and there was a lady walking with her kid on one of the it was the one with the handle, a motorized scooter, but this was a little kid. Maybe just a little bit older than my two littlest grandkids. So and they're like 7 years old. So this lady was walking this kid on the wrong side of North Roosevelt Boulevard, on the south side of North Roosevelt Boulevard. And and we had to wait for her to pass. And of all places, she ended up crossing right there at that intersection that we call the slowest traffic light in the city. So and it's like, oh my God! It was an oh my God moment. It was like, I can't believe she's actually taking this kid across that busiest intersection on this thing, and she has absolutely no control, nothing to be able to grab this kid in the event of an emergency or something like that. It was just so frightening. But these are the kind of things that we're seeing. These are the kind of things that we're seeing. So yeah, are we overacting? No, not by any means. Not by any means. I like the idea of painting the speed limit on the sidewalks where they are permitted in the first place. I like the idea for that of doing that. Will that solve all the problems? No, absolutely not. But it's a start. It's a start, and we have to start somewhere. Hard plate licensing. I would like to see us look at that and see if we can possibly implement something like that. I know that we're under the state preemption. I understand that. But I think that we should that we can certainly look at that. And as Commissioner Hoover mentioned, we can possibly talk to our lobbyists to see about getting some sort of exception on that one. I think that's going to be so important. The chief's idea about the speed data collection, that is huge. That is huge, again, because there's no way that you can monitor the speeds at this time with current availability. Like he said, if you've got one that's actually doing the right speed, and listen, if you're that person on that sidewalk and they're actually going the right speed, but they're coming at you rather quickly, it looks like they're going at considerably faster. But if you've got something to actually collect the data and actually measure that speed, now you've got something that's accurate and something that you can actually use for possible enforcement at some point. Commissioner Weekly talked about the issue with someone possibly getting hurt. And that's one of the things that I'm most concerned with as well. You know, we can't, again, we're not going to, like the lady in the back said earlier, we're not going to solve all these problems. I mean, and the mayor actually said too, you know, e-bikes are here. They're here, and it's only, and they're only going to grow. So what we can do is what we can do. So let's look at those things that are available to us now. Let's think outside of the box. I hate using that term, but let's use the tools that are available to us now to try and make it better, make it safer, which is the first and foremost thing. I know that there are people that absolutely have to use these things to get to and from work. That have had issues where they can't afford a car or don't want to invest in something like that. They're looking at something that's considerably more sustainable. We try to encourage them to use things that are to go in a more sustainable way. Well, then this is one of those things. Again, e-bikes are here. They're here to stay. So what we need to do is everything we can to try and be more safe about it. That's all I have to say. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Just one final comment, Patty. And so many of the comments that we heard from the audience tonight were about bad behavior of both bicyclists, e-bicyclists, on our very constricted sidewalks. And Chief, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but could you and Patty have a conversation of maybe bringing back some bicycle police officers and maybe, you know, run them up down North and South Roosevelt Boulevard to integrate with these bad behavior cyclists? I know we used to have this in the city, and also we used to have some county bicycle officers. So
I do have one bicycle officer on every day during the day as staffing permits. One certified. He may not be on his bicycle if I don't have enough staff. But I do have one certified officer, and we usually use them on Duval because they can get in and around traffic a lot easier down there. The city manager's already directed me, and I've already told them to start looking into a police-certified e-bike so that we have the ability to chase down the violators, because if I get one that only goes 20 miles an hour and they've souped theirs up to go 40, I'm never going to catch them, right? So, but we're looking into police-certified e-bikes that we can actually go out there and patrol with and do enforcement action with. Until that time, again, the people in the audience here tonight have said we are stopping them. It's a little more difficult the way we have to do it right now, but we are stopping them. We are issuing citations, and we have stepped up our enforcement efforts out there. But it takes time with the manpower I have.
Mayor, I think that the chief and I have had some discussions, and we were texting tonight of a plan so that I can bring back to the commission, and
Madam
then
Mayor,
you'll hear me update this.
One other thing.
excuse me,
Yeah.
on
We got-
March the 7th.
Okay. No, we've heard from different people in different streets. This is a citywide problem.
Yes.
I walk down Eagle and Duck Avenue every day, and there's kids on those skateboards that go to Ponciana School, and you see them riding double on them without helmets, and you see men and ladies riding down the street with babies on those bicycles without helmets on them. And that's the most scariest part to me. They run the stop signs. You got a speed control device on Duck Avenue right now. And, you know, and I see officers sitting out there every once in a while, but it's a citywide problem. It's just not in Eaton Street or North Roosevelt and South Roosevelt. It's on all of the back streets also. But thank you very much, and I want to thank everybody for all the information you have given us.
Yeah, again, everyone here had some great suggestions, and I have a note, some notes. The language to get out for the flyers is excellent. We'll make sure we take care of that, and we've done some of that in the past. We've also, education and enforcement. We know those are extremely important to everyone here tonight. Again, I'll tell you that I have been talking to the chief about this for a while. We will come up with a plan and what we can do to start some enforcement sooner than later. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.